Hi, Jay here from socialskills.doubleyourwealth.com. How to start a conversation, 11 secrets from Navy SEALs, President Obama, Bill Cosby, and more. Now, starting a conversation is relatively simple. The trick is to start a conversation that leads to more conversation. You want to connect with someone. There are 4 simple phrases that you can use to virtually start any conversation. Hi, how are you? You look like you're having fun. This is good for parties, bars, places where people are likely to be having fun. Third, hi, nice to meet you. What brought you here? Fourth, how do you know so-and-so? Now, you see, any person can say those phrases, but why is it that some people can say those same exact phrases and have the conversation just tank, go into, basically turn to silence within 10 seconds or, right after that phrase. And some people can start the conversation with those phrases and it leads into more conversation. Well, the deal is the conversation is 10% the phrase and 90% how you say it. So like any knucklehead can say the phrase, but it takes more to turn those phrases into conversation. So let's look at the following tips to learn how to say something to get the conversation to go from zero into a full-on conversation. For the first tip, we got to have confidence. And a guy of great confidence is Jordan Belfort. You may know him from The Wolf of Wall Street. He was played by Leonardo DiCaprio. Guy earned, $50 million in a year at age 26. And one of his big secrets you can see is he was just, every time he went to sell a stock, he expected that person to buy what he was selling. And in a conversation, you want to do the same thing. You want people, when you started off, you want to expect people to respond to you. You don't want to have, one foot in the conversation and one foot ready to leave. You're there to have the conversation. Convey that with your body language. That when you say hi, the other person's going to say hi back, and you're going to create a conversation that flows. Tip number 2 is work on your eye contact. Eye contact is huge. It can convey a lot. One of the masters of eye contact is Bill Clinton. He's known for the reality distortion field. Basically, when he looks at you, you feel like you're the only person in the room that he's talking to. The best example, you can actually see this live, him doing this, and the best example is in this town hall debate against George H.W. Bush when Bill Clinton was running for president against him. He just locks in on this one lady who asks a question, and you can see she just basically almost falls in love with him right there. Go check that video out. I actually have a link to it on my blog on the resource page. But watch that video and kind of notice how he really engages her with eye contact. But for now, here's a couple tips. You want to have a friendly gaze, and you want to look like you're interested in what that person's saying. Third tip, work on your handshakes. Be ready to give the person you're being introduced to a good, solid handshake, and kind of vary it to the person. Like you're gonna, handshake your friend a lot different than you're gonna handshake a grandmother. A grandmother you're probably gonna hug. But you want to be ready for the different types of people and how they're likely to handshake you. Now, a good way to learn this is watch like President Obama when when he's doing speeches or whatever, and he's walking up and he's like handshaking all these different types of people. Watch how he just like smoothly just goes from person to person, and adapt that to your skill set. Next is the magnetic tone of Billy Mays. Billy Mays was a guy on infomercials and used to sell OxyClean all the time. And he became very recognizable through his tone. Every infomercial started off with, Billy Mays here. And the thing is, this can grab someone's attention. When you bring in more energy to the environment, more attention comes on you. It grabs their attention, makes them kind of, it excites them a little bit. So the trick is you want to be slightly above the energy level of the person you're talking to. Just bring in a little bit more energy. Don't go crazy off the wall, because that would be annoying. You just want to convey enthusiasm, and it also helps to smile. Bring some positive energy into the conversation. And almost opposite of the loud tone is the tone of Johnny Depp. I was watching this interview of Johnny Depp when he was younger, and he's like horribly shy in it. But the interesting thing is, he kind of mumbles a little bit, and he talks this really quiet tone. You can almost not even hear the guy. But the thing is, it draws the interviewers in. They're like, what are you saying? They really kind of lean in and whispering. And this is because when, ever since we're little tiny toddlers, we learned that when someone goes to tell a secret, they lower their tone and they begin to whisper. So you can kind of grab someone's curiosity with a whisper. So work on your tone in the conversation to make yourself into a more dynamic speaker. You don't want to be monotone. Monotone is boring. Like, for example, when in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, that one professor who's just Bueller. He goes on and on and on and just puts people to sleep. You don't want to be that guy. Work on your tone. Okay, this tip. Observation powers of Louis C.K. Louis C.K. is one of the most popular comedians on the circuit right now. And he's really funny, and most of his material is based on observations. And what you want to observe when you're about to start a conversation, you kind of want to notice if someone has a unique sense of style, like they have a new set of earrings, something that looks like they put a lot of time into finding, or something that looks like they wear to represent themselves. And you want to kind of notice that, and if you see that, you want to give them a compliment on it. Because when someone puts a lot of time into something, they appreciate when you recognize it. And this goes for the same of if you notice someone, kind of a personal characteristic of someone, you want to give them a compliment on that. It's a great way to kind of get the conversation going. For example, engineers typically think they're really smart people, which they usually are. But they also love to know that you think they're really smart. So if they do say something, just let them know, that was a really intelligent observation. Say something like that. And vary the compliment to the behavior that you think the person admires in themselves. Just be on the lookout for that. Next, you want to prepare for a conversation like Peyton Manning prepares for a football game. Peyton Manning is a football player, quarterback for the Denver Broncos, and he's legendary for just doing obsessive things to prepare for a football game. For example, a couple years ago, he hurt his neck and he had to sit out for a year. And it was a long rehabilitation process, physical therapy, all that stuff. But he did this one crazy thing to get ready, to get his mental game ready for football, get his mind ready for football. He called a lot of his buddies from the team he used to play for. He called them up and he got them into one of the practice facilities to recreate the last game he played. He wanted to run every single play that they ran, and he even planned everything right down to the Gatorade breaks. Okay, so he was really preparing to play again in the NFL. You want to do the same thing when you're preparing for a conversation, especially if it's an important one. To do this, you kind of want to look around for interesting topics to talk about. But the key is you want to find topics your audience will be interested in. Next, we have storytelling. Bill Cosby is a master storyteller. He's a comedian, famous one. And, whereas most people tell a story that gets boring within the first 10 seconds, Bill Cosby could tell a story that lasted 20 minutes and it just captivates every person in the audience the entire time. So you want to learn how to channel your inner storyteller. Believe what you're saying is funny, is interesting, and is worth someone else's time. Believe that. The second, go out and watch YouTube videos of Bill Cosby telling funny stories. On my resources page, I have a link to a couple of his great storytelling examples from some of his routines. Just kind of observe how he makes a story dramatic and how he makes it interesting. Then start to kind of adopt some of those elements in your storytelling ability. Okay, next we have understanding uncertainty like Heinsberg. This guy was a physicist, and he came up with the uncertainty principle. Now, in conversation, I'm not really talking about physics here, but the idea is in conversations, you never know what to expect. Expect the unexpected. Conversations, they go off in tangents. So you want to be ready and capable to adapt to the topic of their conversation. You see, one mistake I see often is people will they'll have something they want to say, they'll try to ram it down somebody's throat, and that gets, it's kind of repulsive because people don't always want to just talk about that one thing. So be ready and capable to adapt to the conversations. Here, decide like Donald Trump. I'm sure you've been in a situation where you've seen someone they start to say something in the conversation, and then they just turn into a mumble. And their mumble just kind of fades off into nothing. And someone will typically ask, that person, like, hey, what was that? What were you trying to say? And that person will say, oh, nothing. Then after they say that, the conversation just kind of goes into silence, and it's kind of awkward. Well, to avoid that, once you start to say something, say it. Stick with it. Convey the confidence. And it doesn't have to be the most, interesting, insightful, grand theory in a conversation. But once you say it, say it. Just like Donald Trump, because he says the most ridiculous stuff all the time, but he says it and he sticks to it. And the guy's a billionaire, so it kind of works. So just don't be afraid to make a mistake, or don't be afraid of someone, or worry about if someone's going to think what you said was boring or just useless. Whatever. Stick to your guns. And the last tip is the awareness secret of the Navy SEALs. In the Navy SEAL training, they have awareness training. The white state's the least aware. The red state is the most aware. And most people in a conversation just kind of walk around. They're really not paying attention to anything. You want to be highly aware of the environment you're in. You want to notice the setting. You want to notice why people are there. You kind of want to get a feel for the emotional atmosphere, how people are feeling, and kind of, enter the conversation knowing that stuff. So you want to be mindful of the external environment. This will help you. When you notice certain things, you'll be able to use those as conversation topics. Okay, so work on your awareness of the situation. All right, well, thanks for watching, and be sure to check out social skills at wwealth.com/blog. Go to the resource page, and check out those links of Bill Clinton and Bill Cosby telling stories. And I can guarantee if you get out there and practice these tips, you'll notice a dramatic difference in your conversational abilities. And you'll have more fun having conversations, and they'll become easier, and you'll start to connect with more people. But you got to get out there and practice. Until next time, thanks again.